20 years, andBeyond has been at the forefront of conservation management. In the process, we've developed a working model that has impacted positively wherever it's implemented.
And that's the success of andBeyond's model, in my view, is that we've able to fight above our weight class in every area that we've operated in. We've changed the way tourism development has happened in Tanzania. We've improved and raised the bar in every reserve that we're operating, in every country that we operate in.
But until recently, our reach was confined to Africa. In 2006, andBeyond India was launched, and the scene was set for a momentous change in the way conservation is managed in the country.
So andBeyond has this incredible model that we take into India. And in our engagement with the Forest Department in India, we discovered that they've got local extinctions in some of the parks and no technology or means to be able to reverse those local extinctions. And what we've got in Africa, of course, is vast experience in reversing local extinctions. So immediately there was an opportunity for us to get together and bring this African expertise into the Indian conservation situation.
Listed as vulnerable on the IUCN's Red List, Gaur populations in the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve ceased to exist in the 90s. Why? No one knows for sure. So we joined forces with the Indian wildlife authorities, and the reintroduction of the species became our first big management project together. But while game capture and translocation is common practice and a fundamental element of conservation management in Africa, for our Indian counterparts, the notion of catching and moving 50 gaur was unimaginable.
So we engaged with the park officials. They sent a group over to Africa where we exposed them to African active management processes in the Kruger National Park, in Hluhluwe Mfolozi, and at Pinda and beyond Pinda. So we got private sector, provincial conservation and national conservation exposure for the group. And this set the ground for the development of a conservation team or an active management team, a translocation team in Madhya Pradesh Forest Department.
5 years of negotiation, training and intense preparation later, Operation Gaur was given the go-ahead, and our team flew over to India to kickstart the mission.
So we arrived in India about 2 weeks before the operation was due to start, and the main reason for that was to check that all the equipment was ready. Remember, this has never been done before in India. The equipment was new, it was built in India and by Indians who didn't understand what they were trying to build it for. They'd never seen it done.
Building specialised trucks and importing Schedule 7 drugs like M99 and the darts needed to mobilise the animals were only a few of the many finer details they had to pay careful attention to.
The ground teams had a briefing on exactly what to expect, and then most importantly the practical understanding of each person's role in the team as we get close to the truck and from when we get close to the animal. We then rehearsed and practiced with the stretcher teams, got them to understand how to carry 700 kilograms of sand. When we got to 800 kilograms, the poles started bending and we realized we're only going to be able to carry big females and males of that size.
Despite careful planning and intense briefing, Les was still worried that things could go wrong.
When you're sitting with a team of 60 people at a capture operation, and this in itself was completely foreign to Dave, Jeff and myself. And it was a real mission to try and manage the 60 people to make sure that their presence wasn't going to impact on the potential of the operation. Whenever you have lots of people around a capture operation, the risks increase. People get in the way, animals get stopped, things get forgotten, people end up talking where they shouldn't be, which completely can derail the whole operation.
But despite the potential dangers and the problems they were facing, the team was in good spirits, and light-hearted banter peppered the briefing sessions.
We're sitting in our first briefing the night before the operation, and Dr. Pabla, the Chief Conservative Wildlife for Madhya Pradesh, said, "Gentlemen, I just want to remind you that we have had outside specialists here before, and they have darted our ungulates before to teach us how to do it, and all the animals died. So no pressure." So this was the day before we were about to start. So we all felt immense pressure on the morning of the operation to make sure that we had absolutely covered every one of our bases properly, reduced every risk as much as we possibly could, and then had to rely on our experience to make sure that we could make it fly.
Les was confident they'd done all they could to prepare, and it was time to get started. In Africa, we often use helicopters to locate and herd animals in a game capture operation. But in India, things work slightly differently.
The helicopters in an Indian capture operation are the 9 elephants. And capturing operations in India can only happen if you have elephants. We discovered that as we went. They can get in between the trees, they can get into the dongas, They're permanent four-wheel drive, and they provide you with a mobility that we just don't have in Africa. So the warden got on his radio and called the elephant team that was out looking for the gaur. They found the gaur and then herded them with elephants out of the hills into the plains amongst the salt forests that we could operate in with the elephants. And they brought them with the first capture operation within 500 meters of the boma, which was absolutely unbelievable.
But before the darting could take place, the Indian vets had to first learn how to judge the correct dosage of drugs.
Initially we were put on the elephants to help assess the size of the animals and start the process of teaching people to judge the dosage that would be required. But trying to judge that's not so easy, so it takes a bit of experience. So we had Dr. Dave Cooper from KZN Wildlife and Jeff Cook sitting on the elephants giving their opinion of what the weight of the animal was. I was giving my opinion. We had the field directors giving their opinions, and then in the middle of the 5 or 6 opinions we'd agree more or less what we thought the weight was, and that would be the dose.
With everyone agreed, it was time to get to work.
The animal was pointed with a green laser pointer to make sure we all understood we were darting the same animal. Then the dart was loaded and the animal was darted by the local vets. We'd done the training with the local vets. They put in all the darts. During the whole operation, we put in 54 darts and not one single dart missed its target, which was absolutely unbelievable. So the Indian vets put the first dart in, all of us got our stopwatches going, and then we sat and waited, because this has never been done before with these drugs and these animals before. And exactly as per our predictions, at 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes, we had really good signs. The animal started high stepping. At 5 minutes, the animal's back legs started going, and at 7 minutes, the animal was down.
But as with any live operation, things can go wrong in a split second.
And we watched in absolute horror as the first animal went down on a steep slope heading towards a nala, which is a little drainage line. Slowly slid forward into the nala and onto its side, which is the worst situation you want for a drugged animal to be in, especially a ruminant.
But the African team's expertise saved the day as Les quickly took control of the operation and got the team to roll the animal onto its chest. Yet they were immediately faced with another problem, one which every game capturer faces regularly.
That we couldn't get the stretcher in next to that animal. So the team got the first taste of putting a rope around an animal's horns and dragging it to somewhere where you could work with it.
The experience was a good lesson for the Indian team to learn early on. Quickly and efficiently, they managed to move the animal onto the stretcher and get it into the recovery vehicle. For their first ever capture operation, things were going really well.
That whole operation for the first gaur dart in India, I think took 22 minutes or 23 minutes. We'll have to check the records, but it was still phenomenally quick. And the speed at which the operation took place improved with every animal that we did. And the amount of participation that we had as an expert team from South Africa got less and less with every animal that we did.
The Indian team's dedication to the operation and learning these new methods ensured the capture and translocation of the gaur was a major success, and proves that the country is well on its way to developing this new form of conservation management.
What amazed me was how the Indian teams all grasped their roles so quickly. At the end of day one, I think we'd caught 5 animals. We'd moved the animals from the field into the boma. They were all standing comfortably in the boma. The boma was attached to the loading ramp on the truck. We were ready to load the animals. And I couldn't believe that after 4 or 5 years of planning to get to this point, we actually had our first 5 animals ready to be loaded in the truck and sent to Gaur National Park. And all of them looked absolutely superb in the bomas.
For andBeyond, it's an incredible success story. And it's been an unbelievable privilege to be part of something that's changing the way management is happening on another continent.
andBeyond is having a massive impact on Indian conservation development based on our expertise from Africa.